Welcome back to another episode of Holy Shift. Holy Shift, we're on episode 9.
I know. It's so much fun. I just kind of lose track of time because we talk about things that light me up inside and I think are just really important to talk about in general, and we don't talk nearly enough about.
Yeah, which leads to our topic today.
Welcome to Holy Shift, the podcast where medicine meets mystery and healing becomes whole.
We're your hosts, Taylor Sappington
and Adrienne Arizari.
Two clinicians, herbalists, and mystics who believe the old ways and modern medicine were never meant to live apart.
This is a space for the witches in the broom closet, the healers afraid to leave their mark, the world walkers who know they don't fit into the systems they were handed.
Here we go first, sharing our stories, our medicine, and the truth about what it really takes to reclaim your power, your health, and your place in the world.
Because the safest, most radical thing you can be is yourself.
This is your permission.
This is your portal.
This is your Holy Shift. So we're going to have a really good conversation about going slow, the season that we're actually in, how your body adjusts to the season, whether you want to acknowledge the body's adjustment to the season or not, the organ system that it impacts, and the true rhythm of the holiday. So we're going to talk about, obviously, the kidney. We're going to talk about how we live in a go, go, go society, but it really needs to be slow, slow, slow. Adrienne, I'm just going to open it, but I know this is a door that you like to blow through. Okay, we are in the season of yin. And more specifically in traditional Chinese medicine, the season of the kidneys. Ladies, I really think you need to pay attention to this episode. Get out a notebook, take some notes. There are a lot of you that are operating on a limited balance when it comes to kidney function. And some of you are probably overdrawn and it just hasn't caught up to you physically yet. And we'll explain what that means. But if it feels like your body is begging for a different rhythm right now, it is. And this is why, because winter is not a mistake. The slowdown is not a mistake. It's a message. So do we want to start with the kidneys?
Sure. You're like, this is one you like to blow through. Yes, I totally get this visual of the Kool-Aid man kicking the door open.
Yeah.
For those of you that are similar vintage to me. The kidneys are so essential in our overall health picture, particularly if you have any eye towards your fertility journey whatsoever. This is of critical importance. You can completely change your health picture by minding your manners during this season. And what does that look like? So the kidneys is the system, and I'm using capital K for kidneys, the way that it's referred to in traditional Chinese medicine. So anyone who's kidney function and they're thinking about it as a filter organ, yes, it has that physiological function, but traditional Chinese medicine understands that kidneys have a much bigger role than that. Mm-hmm. They are in charge of your entire reproductive system, genourinary system. They're really important. And they're kind of like a backup battery to the rest of your system. So if other pieces of your system are falling down, the easiest one that most people complain about is digestion. Mm-hmm. They will lend some of their energy to make sure that the system doesn't falter and fall down. But just like a bank account, you can overdraft. And if you overdraft, there's a finite amount that you can overdraft before the system gets shut down. When the organ overdrafts, then the kidneys come in and they offer overdraft protection.
Yeah.
It's the best way to describe it. But they only will go so far. Most banks will offer it up to a certain number of dollars. And then they're like, no, you are the weakest link. We're shutting this down.
Yeah.
So the kidneys are, from Chinese medicine's perspective, are usually always in some level of a deficit because you get stressed. You don't rest enough. You have too many demands on your mental time and energy, etc. And so the kidneys are constantly in this backup state where they give a little bit. And if we don't meaningfully slow down, anytime through the year, but particularly during the winter season.
One season for the organ we're talking about.
Yes, because I probably should back up and say that there is a different element or organ couple, because things move in husband and wife pairs in Chinese medicine, that are the feature of that particular season. So in the spring, it's liver, gallbladder. In the middle of the summer, the peak of the summer, it's the season of the heart. It's the fire element. When we're looking at late summer, so like when we're harvesting our plants, that is the season of earth. That is spleen, stomach. And then in the fall, so we're recording this at the end of the autumn season so that you have a heads up of what you should do with your kidneys when you go into the holiday season, is the season of metal. And the metal element is that letting go. Just like the trees let go of their leaves, this energy is all about letting go, weeding out your house, letting go of things that don't serve you. The emotion that comes up is grief. When things are out of balance or we struggle with letting go, we might have more intestinal things, dry lung cough. Like those are signs of imbalance in that element. As we walk into the deepest yin of the year, think about it like it's the darkest time of the year, the longest, the one where we tend to get this cold precipitation, snow, at least for those of us that are north of the Mason-Dixon.
You know what's interesting too, though, Adrienne? Like even here in Florida, my husband and I were commenting on this the other day. It is still warm, to say the least. Like we will probably hit 88 today, right? But as soon as the sun starts to settle, like it goes to its peak and it settles, the coolness enters the air, which I love. This is like so here for this, especially after the summer. But all of our trees are dropping leaves. It's not cold. We're not frosting. We're not getting cold overnight. But even the vegetation here knows that now is not the season to be fruiting and blooming.
I love that you said it that way, because that energy is what society expects us to live in. This spring and summer produce fruit. But if you look outside the window, nature cannot sustain that.
No.
And neither can our bodies.
You are part of nature.
Yeah, you are like an ecosystem
Yes.
of the ecosystem you see outside the window.
And all the elements are included within you.
Absolutely. And the balance of all of those elements. You know, one of my favorite quotes is that Lao Tzu quote, "Nothing in nature rushes and yet everything gets done." It's really true. So now let's apply that to the kidneys and this season. We are entering a season of too much, too many ads, too much activity,
too many obligations, too many places that you need to go, too many people that you need to see. It's really overwhelming.
And it's too much. It's extreme on a good day. And now let's apply it to the fact that we're supposed to be slowing down. I have clients that come into my office this time of year and they're like, "Oh, I just feel so lethargic and I can't get out of my own way." And I'm like, well, but you're supposed to want to go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
You're supposed to want to pull inward, because in the winter time, our bodies are supposed to hibernate. The season outside the window is hibernating. It is resting and it is getting ready for this flowering and fruiting and bursting forth energy that comes in the spring. Our bodies need that too. And the unfortunate part is from Thanksgiving through New Year's, that is the prime time to slow the fuck down. And that's not what we do at all. Because by the time we actually slow down after the holidays, meaning January, we are on the doorstep of what Chinese medicine recognizes as moving towards the spring energy. So by February 1st, or Imbolc, for those of you who honor the Wheel of the Year, that is that turning point. That's February 1st. So my birthday is the turning point. So things are supposed to be slower. You're going to want to stay in and go to bed earlier and wake up as the sun is coming up. And the longer stretch of dark is signaling your body that you're supposed to rest. So let's add on top of it with the Amazon Black Friday sales and your email is blowing up and you feel this pressure to go to everybody's house and bring gifts and decorate and do this and that. And I'm not demonizing any of it. If it brings your soul joy, great. However,
if it's obligatory.
Yes, if it's obligatory, I'm going to invite you to consider boundaries that feel good to you because this is such a prime time of the year for you to pour back into your backup battery. If you have any cycle related challenges at all, cramps, PMS, irregular cycles, clots, brown blood, bleeds that disappear for periods of time and then they come back and you're not in perimenopause, especially if you're in perimenopause, you're more sensitive to stress. So like, hello. But if you're not pouring back into that cup, it means all of the other elements that you move through for that next year is going to be even more symptomatic.
You're starting in a deficit.
Yes.
And if the kidneys are the long-term savings account, this season is compound interest. We're a very financially driven society. So if we have to talk in dollars and cents, let's talk in dollars and cents, right? You have a long-term savings account. The goal of the long-term savings account is to see it grow. Is it going to grow if you're constantly pulling money out when you're supposed to be putting money in to compound upon? Absolutely not. So this is the season where you get to compound the interest of your long-term savings account.
Yes. And I like to also describe it in a past life. I worked as a fundraiser. I just kind of fell into it because I could write and talk to people. But anyway, there's this concept. And those of you who work for corporations that do charitable giving matches, this will make sense to you. If you put in $1 as the employee, oftentimes for charitable gifts, there are lots of corporations that will do matches to be able to help your gift be bigger. And if you didn't know that, look into it because you can really make a big impact for a nonprofit or several nonprofits because of that system. But if you put in $1, sometimes a company is a 1-to-1 match, meaning you put in $1, they will give you $1, which essentially doubles your gift. So your $50 gift becomes $100, right? Sometimes it's a 2-to-1 match, meaning you put in $1, they put in $2.
Yeah.
Okay. So your $50 gift becomes a $150 gift. All right. In the season of the kidneys, what you put in, that $1 is a freaking 3-to-1 match, folks. If you want to quantify it. So I cannot stress enough how freaking important it is to create pause in your life from where we are right now in the calendar until like mid-January. This is punctuated pause, right?
Yes.
Like
saying no, pulling back, consuming foods that are conducive to the season too.
Yes.
Right?
Black foods are going to support your kidneys, folks. So when the flesh of the food is blue or black, blueberries, black sesame seeds, you get the idea. That helps your kidney energy.
And that's called Zhang. So like that's the life essence we're talking about. And from a perimenopausal woman, I can only speak for myself, but I imagine Adrienne would be like, yeah, me too, who spent the entirety of her 20s and almost the entirety of her 30s. It really punctuated for me at 36. I got a very big wake-up call at 36, right? Who is now stepping into, which I feel like we need to do a whole conversation on how the age of perimenopause and menopause in the United States needs to be scaled back. But that's a soapbox moment for a completely different day. Like, I don't actually think it's 55 because the women who made it to 55 lived in completely different conditions, but I digress, right? So from a perimenopausal woman who is now attempting and has attempted for quite some time, I won't say attempt, I'm doing it, to rebuild her kidney reserve, do it when you're getting the 3-to-1, because I feel as though the contribution declines the older you get. So you could be putting that $1 in and you're probably getting $1.50 back. It ain't the 3.
It does change over time. Yes. Because of how the aging process works. But I can tell you, as somebody who used to overspend that account like it was my job, Okay. My 20s were a shit show. Well, when you were talking about, I was like, sister speaks for me.
Yeah.
My 20s were a shit show. The early part of my 30s, I was like, wow, rubber hits the road. I need to make this change. I was a couple of miscarriages into it. And at the beginning of my fertility journey, it was due to my kidney cheat because I had overspent the frig out of that account.
Yeah.
And I was in a massive deficit and I had to pay dividends on that. Right. And so I spent 5 years recovering from massive burnout.
So you mean it's not going to happen in 3 months? I think this is a really important string to pull because people get so frustrated when they're doing the damn thing, right? And they're doing it for a month, or they're doing it for 2 months, or they're doing it for 6 months, or they're doing it for 12 months. And it's like, babe, can you put your feelings to the side for just a hot second and acknowledge how long you pulled without putting anything back in?
Yes. And I'm guilty of that. Like I worked myself because I wanted to prove that my gender shouldn't matter. I can function just like a man can. And so like I worked my ass off in my 20s.
Rage motivation? You were motivated by that too when a man told you couldn't do something? Because I always worked for a man. I worked for a woman in my first role and she was just like a man. There's no other way to put it. So really, respectfully, I've worked for men, you know, outside of owning my own business. And then I became a little man when I first started my own business. I don't know how else to put it, you know? Yeah. But like I've worked for men my entire life. And I always used to love when they were like, you can't, or they're threatening my job. And I'm like, bitch, you just lit the fire. Let me embarrass you. Okay.
I was always that hold my beer.
Yeah, literally. And like, then I would go crush. It was like, I needed them to tell me that I couldn't do something for me to be like, oh, okay, lighting the match.
Yes. And well, I didn't even need that part as much. Like I just never wanted it to be a question.
Yeah.
But when it was a question, I was just like, hold my beer. Yeah. Here we go. And I think that's why I actually did really well in fundraising for a little while at the beginning, because I was totally motivated that way. But I worked myself into so many period problems. I was diagnosed with celiac disease. I had GERD. I had migraines. My body was going, stop the bus. I want to get off. And I was like, no, you can do this. Grind and hustle, Adrienne. You can do this. Like, I mean, raise your hand. Like, how many of us have done this, right? So by the time I met the love of my life and we tried to have a baby, I met him when I was 29. And I was starting to question at that point why I was doing some of the things I was doing to myself. We decided to start trying to have a baby of our own a year into our marriage. So like 3 years into our relationship. So I was in my early 30s at that point. And I had 3 miscarriages like right off the bat, but my cycle was all over the place. Like I had been working with an acupuncturist and doing herbs to earn back some of my luteal phase. That's how bad, like your luteal phase is fixed. Generally, when you have cycle related weirdness,
fluctuations,
length, it's coming from the follicular phase or the front half of your cycle. But for me, I had an 11-day luteal phase, which is not sufficient to carry a baby.
No.
It took me 5 years of, I would hit winter and I literally pumped the brakes on everything. I made sure I was warm because luteal phase issues like that are a kidney yang deficiency, meaning you don't have enough fire. And I made sure I stayed warm. I ate all the kidney yang supportive foods. I did all the kidney yang herbs, like all that stuff. And I slowed the hell down. And I honored winter. If I felt like I wanted to go to sleep earlier, I went to sleep. Like I listened to my body, and man, it was hard because my brain was like, you have this to do and you have that to do and your kids need this and and you need to make all the magic for the holiday. And I just got to a point where I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
If we want this baby, one, this is a partnership exercise and I need you to help me manage all of these expectations. But we started pulling back. And I might have a small portion of my family over on the holiday. But even that, we've had some years where we've just
stayed in. Yeah.
In some ways, I feel bad because like then my parents end up spending it by themselves. But the other part of me is like, if I really check in with my body and I honor where she's at right now, I just can't.
There's so much power in saying I can't, though. Can I drop a little bit of quantum perspective into this?
Yeah, of course.
So, when you look at each organ system through the lens of quantum medicine, which acknowledges that we extend beyond our mental, emotional, and physical body, right? There are other bodies that exist that contribute to our health on multiple levels, right? But when you look at, say, the kidneys through a quantum lens, there's something called the morphogenetic field, right? And the morphogenetic field is a template for the organ system. All of us are gifted, if you will, a morphogenetic field at the time of birth. So mom's health definitely plays a role in the quality of every organ system's morphogenetic field and whether or not it's going to be fully intact. And the morphogenetic field allows for mitosis, which is cellular replication, to happen for regeneration of the organ system. And mitosis is copy paste, right? It's going to take whatever's available as the template and it's going to recreate. So if there are holes in the cells of the organ system, if there are holes in the morphogenetic field, you're going to recreate dysfunction for the entirety of your life. And you cannot, from the lens of quantum medicine, you cannot begin to address the morphogenetic field or the quantum level of this aspect of your existence until you've addressed the mental, emotional, and physical to a degree. So I cannot overstate the importance of honoring your body's rhythm, because without honoring your body's rhythm and plugging the holes that likely exist on those levels that are within your ability to reach and influence, you're not going to see your body become whole on other levels, which for most people, it's going to take additional support. But again, you're not going to be able to create wholeness without addressing these levels. And kidney is huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from my perspective, it's like one of the foundational pieces because our cycle, for example, is an organic computer printout of how we lived our life over the course of the last month. Because your cycle month, your 28 to 30 day month, starts the first day you have fresh red flow. So if you were burning the candle at both ends, I did a podcast on this on Reproductive Rebel a couple years ago now, because people constantly spend the month of January going, everything was fine. And now my cycle's like all weird. Like what happened?
Like shit.
And it's like, well, it's because you just swam upstream against the current for 2 months now, being the magic maker and, you know, doing all the things behind the scenes. And it's like, don't get me wrong. I love seeing my kids light up on Christmas morning, but like, does it have to be that extreme? Does it have to be a full contact sport? I have gotten to the point where I order my groceries and my husband goes, you really can't like just, and I'm like, no, because it's not where I want to spend my chi. I need food to live. But why do I have to spend 2 hours walking around the store when somebody can do that for me?
Yeah.
I have enough other places that I'm already overdrafting my bank account. Like, I don't need to waste my time doing that.
I think if you ever question your body's capacity to love and whether or not your body is in right relationship with you, I think all you have to do is take yourself out of the echo chamber that is places like social media, the doctor's office, the society that we live in, and pause for a moment and just look at what your body has navigated alongside with you and kept you alive through. I say this all the time, but if the body wanted to take you out, it would be less than 30 seconds. It could be 20 seconds, right? It could be as easy as a flip of a switch, lights out. No questions asked. And the fact that your body is like, okay, I'll do this with you. I'll run this with you, right? And I won't ask any questions. And we kick and scream on the other side of that, like entitled little children, you know, when it comes to the breakdown of it. And I said this on our last podcast, but I think it comes with maturity. You start to recognize that relationships are reciprocal. This is part of the reciprocity that exists between you and your body and the social conditioning that comes along with, I have to say yes to everyone. I have to be in all places. I have to scatter myself to all corners of the room. No, I think that's an overarching lesson for the collective in general.
Yes.
No is a complete sentence.
No is a complete sentence. And I like that because we have a hard time saying it. You know, this is that sacrificing yourself on the altar of martyrdom.
No.
I mean, but we do it so much because
Mhm.
this is how we've been socialized.
Yep.
And it's so critically important in a season like this. If you want to solve cycle challenges, if you
Or
want
feel
to have
good.
a baby, if you want to feel good and have energy, like I remember after that 5-year journey, and it was about 5 years when it happened, it was early December and I was sitting at my desk. I literally rock like the cool burrow boots with that come 2/3 of the way up my cap because I'm frozen from the knee to the ends of my toes most of the time. Not as much anymore, but that was a very common occurrence back then, which shows a disrupted flow of chi, folks. Just putting that out there. So
From an astrological perspective too, that's solar deficiency.
and we know Adrienne rocks that like a boss.
That is solar deficiency. So like cold extremities, solar
Mhm.
deficiency.
Yep.
You're not
Well,
honoring your sun.
and I'm a kidney yang deficient person.
Oh, and Aquarius is the winter.
Yep. I fight for heat, man. It's awful. And so anyway, my Sherpa lined, like big, thick boots that I wear with socks in it in order to be able to feel my toes.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at my desk and going, I forgot to put socks on today. I can feel my toes.
Mhm.
And it sounds like such a small thing,
It's
but
huge.
it was so huge. And it was the moment that I realized that the 5 years of all of this very focused work and eating all the things and honoring the seasonal cycle and my menstrual cycle and doing things when I was at my prime during my cycle rather than just trying to like soldier through a fixed schedule, actually scheduling my workload around my menstrual cycle and in certain seasons. And when I started doing that, it was like a huge game changer. So here I was at, yin season number 5 that I had been very intentional about changing the rhythm of my life. And I remember, and I'm sitting here right now and I'm wiggling my toes in my slippers because I live in New England and it's end of November and they're warm,
Yeah.
almost sweaty. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've done such a good job. Right. But like, it wasn't until I had that feeling in my feet that I could get pregnant with my son.
Yeah. Well, you always say warm feet equal fertile feet. I will never forget you saying that. And even here in Florida, I will stick socks on when it's 80 some odd, 90 some odd, 100 some odd degrees because I live on tile, right? I will turn upside down if somebody tells me to in order to have a positive experience at this point. But I think it's also really important too to acknowledge that it didn't used to be like this. Like the way with which we go is not how we historically spent the winter season, right? Historically, the winter season, the holidays that sit inside the winter season, they were rooted in slowness and they weren't commercial. They weren't crowded with logistics. They weren't crowded with gift lists and packed social calendars. They were ritualistic. They were communal. They were quiet, right? And you've made mention of the winter solstice that we're getting ready to walk into. This is what used to be the primary celebration. The winter solstice used to be the primary celebration in many cultures, not New Year's Eve, not Christmas as we know it, but the solstice, the longest night of the year where people would gather, they would light candles, they would sit around fires, and they would literally just be together. And there was no rushing it, and there was no posting it. There was no like proof that people did it. It was a thing that you did without a spoken expectation around it. The food was simple. The focus was rest and reverence. You know what I mean? The pace was glacial as it should be. And obviously people cooked, stories were passed down. The stillness
Spices were warming.
Yes. I mean, oh my God, hot mulled cider. God, like so delicious, right? There was ritual to all of this. And none of it was an inconvenience. It was the point. And the season held pause as sacred value, which I think we've done a good job of illuminating, right? Not something to earn after exhaustion, like the society we live in teaches us, but something to begin and lead with.
And I think that as people go, oh, that sounds so lovely. And how can you do this? Right? Like, how do I begin? Because I'm committed to this, that, and the other freaking thing. So this can look like creating little ritual for yourself. Now, when I say ritual, a lot of times people think that has to involve like scents and candles and food and like all kinds of stuff, right? But ritual really was just intentionality in day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And like I was getting ready this morning, and after my shower, I was applying lotion. And like one thing that is a non-negotiable for me is I start my day with sacred oils. And they have a frequency to them, right? And so they have a comfort to them. And I started doing this a few years ago, thanks to one of my priestess shamanic friends. And it's been one of the most nourishing things I've added into my day to day. So even though I have a 13-month-old and life is crazy and I have teenagers and a business and partridge in a pear tree, this is the 5 minutes that I give myself to drop into my body. I apply oil to my body. I say a prayer. I check in with, how do I feel today? And it's a pause. It's a slowing down. If you want to talk about it from a nervous system standpoint, you are helping your body to be able to make the flip between sympathetic, which is being chased by a fucking tiger, and your rest and digest or your parasympathetic, where you can down regulate from that ramped up state. Most of us get stuck. Like when I was working with a chiropractor on a regular basis, she was like, you're stuck in your sympathetic response. And my body thought I was constantly being chased by a tiger. And a lot of us are stuck in that because we have to go get shit done, be everybody's brain, make sure all the things are done. Even when we have supportive partners that do some of the load, the mental burden in a woman's head is unsurmountable most days.
Yep.
And like I had this weird conversation with my mom when they were here visiting this past weekend about the satisfaction of being able to cross something off the list because it feels like she got something done. Any of you who are Virgo probably really love that task. Also, my daughter certainly does. I certainly do, because it validates that, okay, I have gotten something accomplished today. But we're so stuck in that run and go and do and create and spring energy and deliver and blah, 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 that we don't allow ourselves to come back down into the parasympathetic. And when you're in perimenopause, that starts looking like cortisol belly. It causes sleep disturbances. Like there's so many things.
Yeah.
So honoring this season and doing little things. Like for me, it's the oils. That's a non-negotiable. Like I have stupid things that I'm like, oh, I still need to clip my toenails. Like basic needs stuff that like I just get involved in like the rest of the day-to-day stuff. And I don't stop and go, what are my basic needs that I need? And so many of us do this.
Well, and I think arguably most people think that they're sitting in a sympathetic state when in reality they're in a dorsal vagal state. They're in a fawn freeze. Most women who are like, I have spent my whole life in stress. No, babe, you exited the stress stage and you entered the fawn freeze stage like a decade ago. And in order to get out of the fawn freeze stage, you're eventually going to have to go back through the sympathetic stage to find yourself to the parasympathetic stage, where you eventually learn to bounce between the two, the appropriate response. But that's dissociative. That's people pleasing. That's codependency. That's what it looks like a lot of the time, right? Fawn freeze. I think it's really, really important. And I get the question of like, how do I fit this into my life? Guys, nobody else is going to change your life for you. Like society's going to keep going. The expectations are going to exist as long as we appease them. So the person that's going to change the pace of your life is you. The person that's going to change the pace of your life is you putting up boundaries, I should say the habits that are going to change the pace of your life. Putting up boundaries, saying no, turning your phone off, disconnecting from the collective consciousness that is panic, fear of missing out. Let me just like really round that one out, urgency. So in order to do some of these things, it's going to be mildly inconvenient at the start because change always is. If it wasn't, we'd all be doing it. But eventually you cultivate a relationship with your ritual and you learn that you can't live without it. Some of the things that we do in my house, all lights go off. Unless I have a call, all lights go off. I should say overhead lights go off. And we use salt lamps, or we use salt lamp lights, right? Low lights, red lights in some instances too. Some people choose to use candlelight. I love those people. I'm going to stick with lights just because I'm terrified of fire. So it's like a sunset pause, right? Every day at sunset, we turn off overhead lights and we transition to lights that are more conducive to our circadian rhythm at that point in the time or point in the day. We do nourishment check-ins. Like this is not a meal plan for us. And I imagine you do something similar, Adrienne. It's a body listening practice. I am on a soup kick this week. It's like 90 degrees in the middle of the afternoon here, right? But my body is craving chicken broth, miso, like the ramen noodles that are so delicious, bok choy, shiitake mushrooms. Like I can specifically tell you what my body is craving. So like Taylor's going to eat that on repeat as a hyperfixation until she's sick of it. Right now, that's what I'm craving. So all three of us do nourishment check-ins. Like what would feel warm and grounding and mineral rich to me right now? Once a week, we turn off our devices and we spend the evening like our great grandmother would have.
Oh, I love that. I need to bring that one into my house because I feel like I'm constantly fighting devices. And I remember
Kill switch goes a really long way with a remote. You just like hit off and nobody can fight it. You're like, and we're done.
Ooh, how do you do that?
We will link a kill switch below and I will send one to you. But literally there's a kill switch that I use for the majority of our electronics. They're all plugged into like one block in the wall. And when they go off, it's just, boop.
That's awesome.
We're done.
I love that. I need the boop.
Yeah.
I do it. I put my phone on the charger and I walk away from it. I remember when I first started doing that practice, I felt anxious.
Of course.
It was awful. I didn't think I had an unhealthy relationship with my phone, but it was always business stuff. Did a client ask a question? I had a notification that came up. Like I've minimized the amount of notifications that I get because they stress me out. But I was like always checking for the client things. I had to schedule office time to check. So people who are on care plans with me, they get like a personal like line to me in order to be able to ask questions. And I schedule time that I sit down and I answer the mail and then I walk away from it so that it's a fixed time frame that I'm spending doing it and it's at a scheduled time. And then I can just put my phone away. I didn't want anyone to wait for an answer and I was constantly answering. So anyway, when I first started doing this, I felt anxious. And I am not a doom scroller. I am not somebody who spends a lot of time going down the social media rabbit hole. I don't play games on my phone. Like I really don't have any of that stuff. It was all business related. And it was just too easy to check my email. It was too easy to talk to my clients and respond back to them because I didn't want them waiting on me. And I was like, Adrienne, you are going to burn out if you stay doing it this way. So I try to lead by example and put my phone on the thing in my bedroom. It's not even near my head, near my bed, like none of that. And my family still hasn't caught on that like mom doesn't have her phone. So like I need a kill switch. That would be amazing.
Oh, kill switches are great. I mean, the other thing that I personally do too, and I don't know if this translates to some of the changes you make in this particular season, but my movements start to change, right? Like I left HIIT a long time ago. I don't do HIIT workouts. They were not conducive to my constitution. They really did a number on my body. But as the days get shorter, the nights get longer, and we do get cooler here. I like things like long walks at dusk. They're my favorite to go outside or just after dinner, you know, when it feels like midnight at 6 o'clock at night. I like slow yoga. I like somatic type movements that are nonlinear. Are there days where I'll still do weight bearing exercises? Absolutely. But my body does crave a different type of movement this time of the year that is slower.
And that's normal. So like meditation is a form of exercise for the kidneys. Maybe that's not worded really well, but meditation is something that is encouraged during this season as a form of exercise. Yeah. Because you're moving energy through your body, but you're doing it in a gentle way. I get asked about weight training a lot, and I'm not opposed to it as a Chinese medicine practitioner because there's a muscle tug on bone that takes place during weight training activities or weight bearing activities, and that strengthens kidney qi. But like during this time of year, I don't lift super heavy. I do create weight bearing, but I don't lift really heavy, and I limit the number of days. So like instead of doing it 3 or 4 times a week, I might do it twice a week. I'll lighten my load a little bit I definitely do meditation. Right now, I'm doing more like weight bearing walking, not just because my toddler fits into a backpack and I take him with me, but that just feels good because I don't walk as long because there's more heft to the
Yeah.
walk, but it also slows me down. And so, instead of walking with a destination or a purpose in mind, I'm walking to point things out to my son, and it slows the pace and the cadence of the walk, which helps your primal brain to flip between this stress response and, oh, hey, I'm not being chased by a tiger.
There is something to be said about the saying, slow down and smell the roses.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Like there's something to be said about that particular sentiment. It really does change our brain chemistry. We really are meant to move at that savory pace. We are not meant to live in a world that just passes us by, and only in the last chapters, minutes of the chapter, most of the time, are we supposed to look up and look around and go, how did I miss all of this?
I mean, that's people's biggest regret on their deathbed, right?
Absolutely.
Is that they didn't spend more time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The I'm sorry's I didn't say, the dreams I didn't bring to fruition, the things I didn't chase, the family time I didn't take because I chose to work, the money I chased instead of the moments I chose to make memories out of. I worked in hospice. I could tell you that, for sure, without a doubt, that most of the time, the people who were transitioning had similar regrets, if that's what you want to call them, realizations, reflections. It really is a short time that we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we doing wasting it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not to bring morbidity to this conversation, right? But any single one of us could walk out the door tomorrow and get hit by a bus. What a mom thing to say, right? And at the same time, that rings true. It's not just something your mom said to my mom said that to me all the time. Any one of us could walk outside and get hit by a bus, right? Well, yeah, that's true. How many people do you know that went to work one day and never came home? So like this season is a reminder of that too. And just like Adrienne said, when we go in a season built for slow, we pull from our reserves. I think our perspective becomes wildly skewed, right? You override your signals that say stop because you think being tired is a problem to solve instead of a message to listen to. Your symptoms are not problems. Like I really want to, if you take nothing else from these podcasts with Adrienne and I, please understand that the way your body is choosing to communicate with you is not a problem. The problem would be if the symptom didn't show up. Can you imagine having a silent grenade go off and you being like, I had no idea? Now when people show up and the grenade has gone off, I'm like, how many years did you ignore the symptom? Sorry, this is about personal accountability and responsibility. No one else is going to change it but you. It's about moving from presence and out of performance. So I just think this is a really good season to reflect upon the way that you're living your life and really take inventory of the ways that you would like to change it. And I hate the word resolution. So maybe we can find another way to commit to showing up and leading our lives through a different path, perspective, and lens. Because look at how this sets up. Season of reflection into season of slow transition into season of action. Like, hello, it's beautifully set up for you.
I look at it as, how am I going to do things with intention?
Yeah.
What needs to change in order for things to feel aligned and good in my body? And I've been reflecting on this a lot. And I have things that I want to change about how I move through as I'm looking at 2026, both from, what do I want to do, create, where do I want to travel? What do I want the year to look like personally and professionally? Mm-hmm. And that isn't for me as a resolution, but more intentionality. Yeah. And what feels nourishing to my system, what feels good in my body, what are my hell yeses and fuck nos? Where am I going to create boundaries, or maybe where I had boundaries that I didn't honor my boundaries the way that I really wanted to? Mm-hmm. To me, that's what this phase of the year is all about, is reflection and setting some intentions around how do I want to move through this next wheel of the year. And that doesn't start on January 1st. Nope. This is the time of year where you're in the hibernation and honestly should be in the inaction so that you can rest and recharge, so you can be in action in the springtime.
Do you think that it's a mistake, right? That Scorpio season is now, and then we move into Sagittarius season, and then we move into Capricorn season, Aquarius and Pisces. And I say this with such respect, right? But these are some of the most grounded, in certain aspects, signs of the zodiac. Structure, like Sagittarius is all about adventure and exploration, but that could be inner adventure and exploration, right? Scorpio is all about death, alchemy, transmutation, and rebirth. You've got Capricorn structure. Like there's so much structure within the Capricorn personality, if you will, or archetype. So I can tell you indefinitely that 2026 is going to be a clusterfuck astrologically for the collective. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Like, we are going to amplify and accelerate on a collective level in terms of astrology. And it doesn't have to be like that for you, especially if you capitalize on this season and you start intentionally choosing how you're going to move into the new year and through the new year. You don't have to plug into the collective chaos.
And I can tell you that doing this exercise last winter, for as much of a dumpster fire as 25 has been, with all of the things that have
everybody wave their white flag,
right? Pretty much. I feel like my nervous system has been able to weather all of that storm so much better because I went into it with this intentionality.
Yeah. So my closing thoughts, if you will, for this particular season and topic and podcast, I would invite you to let this winter be different. Not another sprint into New Year, not another month of ignoring what your body keeps whispering, because it will scream. Y'all know it will scream. Most of you've got screaming symptoms anyway. I would invite you to let it be quiet. I would invite you to let it be enough. I would invite you to honor the season by making fewer plans, cooking more, but making it simple, turning off your overhead lights and lighting a candle or getting a salt lamp, wrapping yourself in something warm and asking, what do I want to do tonight if I wasn't trying to be productive? Like, what would tonight look like if I wasn't trying to be productive? And let the answer reflect your instinct, because that's your rhythm, right? This is your kidney season compass, and that's your truth.
I love that. That sums it up.
So we're with you in this season of chaos. We're cheering you on, and we're also going to be the voices that are encouraging you to slow down in an unconventional way. This isn't like we talked about this before we hit record, like, oh, just go journal.
Yeah.
We understand it's really about making intentional pivots to move into the season, to move through the season, and to come out of the season in a completely different headspace and hopefully physical state.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I didn't want any of this to sound like, your stereotypical go journal, it'll be great. Like, for some people, journaling is great. Some people, it is nourishing. Other people, it just feels like another thing to do. Like Taylor said, this is very much tuning into your body and what feels good to you. This could be just getting dressed without feeling like your hair is on fire from the time your feet hit the floor in the morning, and you allow yourself time to lay in bed and look out the window, or maybe you read a book in the sunlight first thing in the morning for 10 or 15 minutes. Like, it does not have to be insane. It does not have to be a lot. For me, a cup of tea can be very much my time. And my kids are started to getting really comfortable with that is a tomorrow problem. I say that statement a lot. That is a tomorrow problem, because I can feel in my body that I am tired and I do not have the skills for it. And I'm not going to do it justice, and I'm not going to show up the way that I want to show up. And that's it. Like, how do you want to show up in your life for your family, for the things that are important and resonate with the deep places in your soul?
Yeah.
How do you want to show up? And if you're not showing up in a way that you feel good about, that is your body's way of saying, girl, you need a little bit of time. And it doesn't have to be a trip to a float tank. It could be. But it doesn't have to be. It can be these little moments throughout the day where you take a breath and maybe you have your coffee 2 hours after you wake up on your front porch. Or maybe it's intentionally getting away from your desk and walking outside in the sunshine for 10 minutes on a lunch break. Like whatever feels nourishing to you. These are punctuated small moments, 10 minutes, 5 minutes here and there all throughout the day. That adds up.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have it, you've got bigger problems.
Yep. That is exactly why we're having this conversation. Because if you're saying that you don't have it, it's showing you, it's demonstrating to you that there needs to be sentence no in your experience a lot more often.
Oh, and it really illuminates that time, which is a completely man-made construct, is managing you instead of you managing it. So be the change.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Kwanzaa. If I've missed your holiday, I am deeply sorry. Happy holidays. Let's wrap it up with that, right?
Merry Yule.
Merry Yule, right? And until next time, stay well.